This video contains detailed descriptions of real-life violence, murder, and forensic investigation. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Some content may be disturbing to sensitive audiences. Please proceed with caution. Puan Hasleza Ishak was born on December 25, 1976, in Ipoh, Perak, Malaysia to a wealthy family. When she grew older, her beauty caused her to enter the modeling world from a young age. She was moderately successful as a model and soon started getting offers to be an actress in some films in Malaysia. In the late 90s, she became well known in Malaysia as a result of this. It was then that she met Raja Jaafar ibn Almarhum Raja Muda Musa, the Crown Prince of Perak, a man 36 years her senior and already married. His first wife was Raja Nur Mahani binti Almarhum Raja Shahar Shah, a former actress and teacher, mother of 2 children and yet again, much older than Hasleza. Jaafar offered up a marriage proposal to Hasleza who accepted. Hasleza and Jaafar had their wedding in southern Thailand in February 2002, officially making Hasleza a princess. Following her accession to royalty, she quit the modeling and film industry completely. According to her mother, Hasleza regularly carried an amulet for protection against evil spells, as she was superstitious and believed in such threats. The threats plaguing her though were decidedly more human. Recently she had been directly threatened and someone had smashed her car windows in an attempt to intimidate her. On October 6, 2002, was enjoying her day in Ipoh when a group of a man suddenly pulled up next to her and began dragging her out of her car and into their vehicle. Hasleza had barely left her home when this happened. One of the men was muscular enough to smash the car window with just his hands to open the door from the outside and pull Hasleza out. This was in public and broad daylight, so many witnesses were present and watched her screaming and calling for help while the man just slapped her with all his might to silence her before pushing her into the back seat of their car and driving off. Despite the witnesses, all the men were wearing caps, dark clothing and dark glasses hiding most of their identifying features so nobody could describe the men. One witness decided to follow the car from behind, keeping his distance as he trailed behind the vehicle. They first passed the Taman Pinji Perdana guardhouse before accelerating onto the main road heading towards Lahore. The witness eventually reached a petrol station before he had to stop. But luckily, he managed to catch their license plate. Having a member of the royal family so brazenly abducted in public ultimately brought the case up to the top of the police's priority list from the very beginning, and pressure was put on them to find her as soon as possible. But finding her wasn't easy. Despite a massive search, they struggled to find any trace of her, and the kidnappers didn't leave or mail in any ransom notes. The car in question was a brown Proton Saga, and interestingly enough, it had a police sticker on it. A few days into the search, the police found the car. Inside, officers found brown stains likely to be blood on the backrest of the back seat, 2 bagged cushions for cigarette butts, 9 strands of hair and a soil specimen with 2 pieces of broken glass and foreign fibers inside. The hair and blood were a match for Hasleza. Meanwhile, the cigarettes were taken for DNA. With this discovery, the police came to the unfortunate conclusion that Hasleza was likely deceased, and now the search was simply to find her body. On October 11, the decomposed body of a woman was discovered hanging precariously from a tree beside a waterfall at a popular picnic site near 13th kilometer from Simpang Ijak, Kampung Sumpatan, only a few kilometers from Perak's royal palace. She was wearing a light brown short-sleeve shirt and dark blue trousers, and her hands and feet were tied. Directly above the crime scene was a bridge which she had likely been thrown from, being caught by the tree on her way down, about a 5-story drop. The cause of death was strangulation, and it had occurred before being thrown from the bridge. The body was soon identified as Hasleza, and because no ransom demands were delivered, no groups claimed responsibility. If not for the tree, her body may have washed away never to be found, and the killers likely weren't intending on sending a message. Furthermore, there was still strangulation as the cause of death. So despite her royal status, the police did not believe the case to be political in nature and declared the incident a crime of passion with jealousy as a likely motive. The police began by tracking down the owner of the vehicle. Eventually, they landed on a 33-year-old man named Sabaruddin Nan, a carpenter. Next, since it was likely a crime of passion, the police turned to the palace to look into those who lived with Hasleza. This led to the arrest of 4 other palace aides/servants. 3 of them were 50-year-old Mat Saad Isa, a Bomoh, 47-year-old Rahim Ismail, another Bomoh who was also Raja Nur Mahani's nephew, 27-year-old J. Mangnimangran, a fisherman, and a 41-year-old palace aide, Tengku Aristantia Tengku Muhammad Ansari. Mangnimangran specifically was said to have gone into hiding and told his mother that he only broke a window and wasn't involved. Luckily, his mother encouraged him to turn himself in anyway. A Bomoh is a traditional shaman who is said to use magic to control ghosts and spirits. The police pulled their phone records, with the itemized bill showing communications between all of them around the time of the abduction and murder proving that they were likely responsible. DNA taken from the cigarettes were also a match for one of those arrested. Lastly, the police arranged a lineup of 20 individuals consisting of Indian workers and native Malays, including the 5 accused. The witnesses they had view the lineups positively identified them from the lineup. They were all interrogated and Mat Saad Isa was the first to confess. Not only did he tell the police that they were indeed the killers, but that the murder had been done on Mahani's orders. On October 25, Mahani was finally detained for questioning. Something that was not easy due to the inherent scandal involved with arresting a royal. According to Mat, after the wedding, Hasleza moved into the palace and Raja Jaafar would only pay attention to her, which angered Mahani greatly. Around the same time, some odd occurrences would be plaguing the palace, some that many felt to be paranormal in nature. According to what they had to say, Mahani would sometimes hear the cries of children and sometimes she would see snakes in the room, which would disappear in a few seconds. It became common to see decapitated birds and chickens on the floor of the palace. Mahani often heard the sound of bamboo being broken in the middle of the night, often found blood-stained sanitary pads on the roof of the palace, bottle flies would swarm after her, a mirror suddenly shattered in front of her and she would suddenly vomit with crystals being found in her bile. Other times, she'd vomit blood. Mahani was the only witness to these supposed events. Mahani allegedly believed that Hasleza had used black magic to make Jaafar ignore her in favor of herself. In August or September of 2002, Mahani sought the help of her nephew Ismail. Ismail then brought into the mix his friend Mat so he could help at the palace. They employed many different traditional rituals and practices to try and exorcise the evil from the palace. The main method they employed went as follows. They gave Mahani a bottle of mineral water containing a string that had been passed through a buffalo's nostrils, instructing her to put drops of this water in her husband's coffee. According to their traditional beliefs, whoever drank this water would have to obey whoever gave it to them. When they were met with failure every time, Mahani had enough and ordered them to simply kill Hasleza instead. Mahani even showed them photos of Hasleza, her car, and her house to identify her and plan their murder more easily. Mat claimed that he was reluctant and that Ismail had to threaten his family to get him to comply. The two then recruited Sabaruddin, Mangnimangran and Ansari to aid in the murder. That is exactly what they did. After forcing her into the car, they drove to a remote area known as Jalan Sumpatan and began discussing how best to kill her when Hasleza suddenly got out of the vehicle and ran away. They all caught up to her and soon they noticed 2 motorcycles driving by so Mat quickly, karate chopped, the back of Hasleza's neck to silence her. He then, completely on his own strangled her. Now that Hasleza was dead, they loaded her body back into the car and drove a little further. They finally came across the bridge and after checking for any passerby, they threw her over the railing. They had hoped she'd land in the waterfall, be washed away and likely never found. They didn't notice her getting caught on the tree. They were all paid for their services and according to Ismail's wife, the spell has been broken, and her husband loves her again now, referring to Mahani and Jaafar. The payment was generous and most of them even took a break from working as prior to the murder, most of them just worked odd jobs. Mahani denied any involvement with the murder or even knowledge of it. She told the police that Ismail and Mat were only hired to exorcise the evil and black magic from the palace. She denied murder ever being a part of it and denied even accusing Hasleza of being responsible. She defended herself by saying she would never do such a thing, because it would jeopardize my high position and mar the good name of my family and the state. In a controversial decision, Mahani was released after only a week without charge due to a lack of evidence. Meanwhile, charges against the five moved forward. The trial took place at the Taiping High Court in Perak and many were expecting harsh retribution. Murder in Malaysia carries the death penalty, to begin with, but they were accused of murdering a princess in particular. If convicted, many figured they would be made to pay the ultimate price for their actions. In court, their lawyers argued that if Mahani truly had been the mastermind then she should be charged, but the police didn't make much of an attempt to do so, but they still took their confessions at face value, confessions that indicated Mahani as the mastermind. Because of that, they argued that a massive injustice was taking place. Matt also tried to deny ever being a Bomoh. Shockingly, quite the opposite happened. They had their charges dropped to culpable homicide not amounting to murder. On April 25, 2003, they were convicted and all given a 20-year sentence. When they went to appeal, they had their sentences reduced to 14 years. On October 30, 2004, the rest had their appeals dismissed. They appealed once more and on August 18, 2006, the Federal Court of Malaysia acquitted Ansai and Ismail but upheld the others' sentences. Ansai and Ismail were released that same day. Mahani passed away on October 3, 2017, taking any knowledge she might have had on Hasleza's murder to the grave. If this story moved you or made you think, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.